New toy. Okay.
They say the difference between a rich man and a poor man is the cost of his toys.
Yeah.
So they say.
So am I rich or am I poor?
If you have the kind of life that you have, then you're a rich man.
So good. Baruch Hashem.
It says from somebody who doesn't have any life.
You look better today, Baruch Hashem.
You know what? I'm thinking I changed my medication. I changed my cough medicine.
Mm-hmm.
From one that was highly recommended. I changed it. I went to the drugstore and he gave me a lozenge. I asked him for chlorophyll. You're right. They don't tell me.
They don't have it. Okay. So we're on page Ayin Daled Reish. You notice that they write Ayin Daled Reish instead of putting the Reish in front, because this way it spells Eded, which means a flock. Whereas if you would have Reish Ayin Daled, it would mean, someone's there. You don't get it?
Yeah.
Otherwise it would mean Ra'ad, which would mean like a tremor.
Havad?
Ra'ad.
Right.
Like Ridat Adama and so on. Shalom. See what happens when we start late? The guy who came on time every day now decided not to come so on time. Okay, so the last thing that we learned yesterday was that that when you have something to tell, to criticize, right? Then it has to be Divrei Chachamim benachat nishma'im, that the words of the wise are listened to when they are spoken with tranquility, with and so on. And secondly, he said that particularly during Elul and Tishrei, first be Mikar of the people. Mikar of Biyamin, B'derech b'smoil. It's not a time to give Musar, right? And don't talk Lashon Hara against Hashem's children. You get up and you tell the community, oh, you're doing this and you're doing that. Maybe it's the truth, but it's still saying something negative about Hashem's children. And then, so we're at the paragraph, the last paragraph I'm going to read over, V'yitera mizo, the bottom of Ayin Daled Reish. I was just explaining that this is second, right, but your hand is over it. The bottom of Ayin Daled Reish, on the right side. And I don't know if they do it elsewhere, but in Chabad, when the letters spell out a negative word, so they'll move the letters around. So that's why it's Ayin Daled Reish instead of Reish Ayin Daled. And see also the page, the next, right next to it is Ayin Reish Hey, right? Because otherwise it would be Reish Ayin Hey, which means Ra'ah. Okay, so they don't want to write negative things, so they do it that way. But you see on the next page, it'll go back to Reish Ayin Vav, Reish Ayin Zayin. You understand? So he says, "V'tira mizu amru Chazal." The rabbi says, "Shlosha bara Hakadosh Baruch Hu v'taha shibra'an." There are three that God created, and He regretted. Which obviously, the idea of saying that Hashem did something and then He regretted it, you have to make it. It's clear to you that it's Dibrat Torah b'lshon b'nei Adam. The Torah is speaking in the language of man, right? In other words, it's inconceivable that God should do something and then He's going to say, "Oh, I made a mistake," And you have that at the very end of Parshas Bereishis, right? That it says God regretted that He created man. So again, it's too easy to misunderstand. You have to be careful how you understand that. And in fact, if you remember, Rashi on that pasuk tells us that this Roman emperor said to Rabbi Akiva, "But did God make a mistake or something?" And Rabbi Akiva says, "No." But he says, "You have a child?" So he says, "Yes." He says, "Were you happy on the day he was born?" He says, "Very happy." And how do you feel when if that child starts misbehaving? You still feel happy that you have a child, you know what I mean? So in other words, there's a time that you feel happy and there's a time that you feel oy vey, right? So, and one of the three that God regrets, so to speak, is V'yetzer Hara. Hashem regrets that He gave us such a strong Yetzer Hara. So why did He give us such a strong Yetzer Hara? What would life be like without a Yetzer Hara?
It would be very boring.
It would be boring, eh? Look at that. Everybody's in agreement over here. The three wise men here, sitting here, and they're all agreeing that life will be boring.
3 wise men is the wrong religion.
4 wise men.
4 wise men. Okay, that's it.
Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov.
Okay.
So then everybody says, "Oh, it will be boring." But basically, you wouldn't have much free choice. That's why to us it would be boring, right? Wouldn't necessarily. For us, it's sort of pretty inconceivable. So one of the things is that it's Hashem sort of also is giving us an argument with which we can pray to Hashem and say, "Listen, how much can you hold us responsible for everything that we're doing?" But there's this Shebayisa, there's this sourdough in that makes us feel separate and like where it makes us feel like we're an independent yesh. And that's the argument that Moshe Rabbeinu uses at one point when he's davening for us and so on. Okay? Now that wasn't the door, I don't think. So Shenemar, it says, Vasher Harei Oti. I regret that, in other words, that I caused the people harm. V'afal pikein, nevertheless, kasher tzrichim levatel et hayetzer hara, when you need to be mevatel the yetzer hara, when you need to nullify the yetzer hara, harei ze ne'esa al yidei haTorah dafka. How do you do this? You do this dafka through Torah. K'mamar Hazal, like the Gemara says, Barati yetzer hara, I created the yetzer hara, ubarati lo Torah tavlin, and I created the Torah as an antidote or as a spice to against the yetzer hara. Shedrachei darchei noam b'chol netivotei hashalom, for the pathways of the Torah are pathways of peace, and all its lanes, all its pathways are. Its ways are noam, are pleasant, and its paths are shalom, are peaceful. So what he's saying is the way you're concerned about somebody else's yetzer hara, right? You want to give them musr, you want to rebuke them, fine, but you have to know that the way to do it is darkei noam, b'chol netivotei hashalom, right? Show them, like, there's a famous Hasidic aphorism, a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness, right? You go into a big, huge ulam, it's totally dark, light one candle, and it dispels a tremendous amount of darkness, right? And that's the Hasidic way. Rather than pointing out, this is a dark spot in your life, this is a dark spot in your life. So bring me some light. That's one of the differences between Chassidish yeshiva and the Litvish yeshiva. So in the Litvish yeshiva, they have a mashgiach. You had a mashgiach in your yeshiva? You went to yeshiva, by the way? Yeah, you had a mashgiach. What's the mashgiach doing? He's watching over you to see if you're doing anything wrong. Yeshivas, they have a mashpia. What does a mashpia mean?
An influence.
Somebody to bring you the light, right? In other words, to elevate you, to bring you the shefa. That's a big difference, right? Somebody mentioned it the other day. It's a known thing that Reb Shlomo, even when somebody would say, "Are you allowed to write on Shabbos?" How would he answer? He would say, "Yes, we don't write on Shabbos." He always, tried to do it with the yes. When he was going around and telling everybody you're the greatest and you're so special, he wasn't exaggerating. He was telling the truth from the way he saw it, that every individual is mamish the greatest. Okay, so that's mashpia. You're bringing light. So that's what the Rebbe is saying over here. And from this, shamirat divrei musar. So if you're going to give musar, right? And by the way, the Tanya, if you look at the opening page of the Tanya, he says that is very, very much an anthology from the Sifrei Musar. And the Tanya is full of Musar, but it's given in a Hasidic way. Okay? So, מזה מובן שאמירת דברי מוסר צריכה להיות באופן דברי חכמים בנחת נשמעים. If you're going to give musr, it has to be in such a way that the person is going to be able to hear it, and it can be through anger heated, passionate, getting angry and so on. Very, it's something to really aspire to, something to really, like especially with your own children and with your students and so on, and anybody. And unfortunately, there are people that by the time they get to grade 5, they're already so used to, being screamed at, etc., that there are people that if you're soft-spoken with them, they don't even pay attention, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that you should start screaming. You still have to be soft-spoken, and you still have to tell people what they need to be told in a way of, you mean mikarevet, and that you love them.
I noticed that whenever you give us Musar for whatever reason, you always say you're not talking about us, you're talking about yourself.
He's telling me what I should say.
No, that's what you do say.
Okay, so should we give him Musar for coming late? I'll leave it to you.
It's the way you say it. I'm very happy to see you. I would like to see you earlier.
Who are you talking to? This guy who just came in? I'm very happy to see you. I would like to see you earlier.
Yes.
I heard you.
Okay.
Yes, you're right.
That was beautiful. You're gonna very much.
Again.
You're gonna make any difference now?
Yeah, well, we'll see. Hopefully. Okay. So now he's going in to tell us everybody's heard about the Rebbe Reb Zusha and his brother, the Rebbe Reb Elimelech. We're on page Ayin Reish Hey. As is told about one of the students of the Maggid. And by the way, Galti Rebbe was very, very close with the Rebbe Reb Zusha. In fact, if you open the Tanya and you look at the letters of the letters of Haskama, the letters of approbation, one of them is by the Rebbe Reb Zusha. The Rebbe Reb Zusha, there was always an argument whether he knows how to learn or not. Why? Because they were both students by the Maggid, and whenever the Maggid would begin a shir, and he would say something like, "You have papers? I'll give you." No. He started off with a Hashem on Moshe, and Reb Zusha would go, "God spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu, wow!" And he starts going crazy about the fact that Hashem spoke to man. He's going to ecstasy, and the shir couldn't go on. They would have to carry it out, literally. Okay, so he was never there during the shir. So there were those that said, "How could he possibly know how to learn?" And there were times that I know of 2 occasions. There are 2 stories where somebody asked Reb Zusha, "How did you know that?" There was once he gave a certain teaching, and it's found only in some obscure Yerushalmi. And somebody went and asked him, like, "How did you know that? You never, did you learn the Yerushalmi?" And he said, "Zusha knows it from the same place as the Yerushalmi." In any case, so the Maggid arranged, or the son of the Maggid, the Mizitcher Maggid, was known as Rebbe Avram the Malach. So he made a chavrusa with the Rebbe Reb Zusha. Reb Zusha was going to teach him Chassidus and Kabbalah, and he was going to teach Reb Zusha the Nikla, the Torah, the oral Torah. So he asks Reb Zusha, "So what do you want to learn?" So he says, "Well, let's start at the beginning. From Mishnayos. What's the first Mishnah? Matai korin et Shema ba'arvin." when they read Shema in the evening. So the Malach starts reading. And Reb Zushi says, wait a minute, no, with Zushi you have to translate like you're learning with a child. So he translates Matai Korin et Shema from when Zogt bin Shema by Nacht. And Reb Zushi says to him, how do you know that Matai means from when? Maybe it means with great Yiras Shemaim, with great Ema. And the Malach said, find another Chavrusa. I don't know if he put it in those words, but that's basically what he told him, get another Chavrusa. Okay? Anyway, so it's a gewalt, no? So, Valderach HaMesupar, Odot Echad Metalmidei HaMagid. So the Rebbe Reb Zusha and his brother, Rabbi Elimelech, they used to travel around incognito. Next page. They used to travel around incognito, and they were doing something which is called, like Hasidim, what gepravet golis. They practiced being in exile. And what that would mean was, and there were many tzaddikim that used to do this. I don't know of anybody doing it nowadays. Besides, you wouldn't really know about it anyway, because it's not the kind of thing that you tell people. But the idea was they would travel around just with sticking a sack over their back with some dry bread and their tefillin and their talis and maybe a sitter, maybe one sefer, and incognito. And they would go like from town to town, and they would go to the shul. And if somebody invited them, good. If somebody didn't invite them, they would just sleep in the shul. They would have there's all these amazing stories about the two brothers. So the Rebbe Reb Zushi, the two brothers, Rebbe Reb Zushi and Rebbe Reb Elimelech. So, Valderach HaMesupar Odot Echad Metalmidei HaMagid, as is told about one of the students of the Magid, Reb Zushi, I told you right at the top of the page. שכאשר רצה לפעול על יהודי לשנות ולתקן את דרכיו, so when the Rebbe Reb Zushi wanted to have an influence on someone, to change his ways, to fix his ways, so he would go and he would stand next to the person, or near the person, and he would start saying out loud, Zushi asa kach v'kach, Zushi did this and this. And he would start listing all the different averos, all the different transgressions that this person had done. But he would say, Zushi did this, oy vey, Zushi did this, and he would cry. Because when this other person, this other person would hear the Rebbe Zushi doing his confession that, oh, I did this aveira, and he would cry over it. Oh, I did this aveira, and he would cry over it, right? To the other person, the other person would be aroused to do tshuva. He would have regret for what happened in the past, and he would accept to do tshuva. So, and this is what Reb Zusha would do, and this is what Rabbi Elimelech would do. They would criticize themselves. So they saw somebody doing, who knows, whichever averos, and they said, oh, Zusha did this, and he'd cry over it. In the meantime, it was the other person who did that, right? And the other person would think, like, look at how this Yid is doing tshuva, I better do tshuva also, right? So what's the hesber in that? So the Rebbe is going to explain this. He says, as it's been said a number of times already, what it says in the Sifri Musar, כאשר אדם רואה חיסרון מסוים אצל חברו, when you see a fault in another person, הרי זה בדוגמת האדם המסתכל במראה שרואה את צורתו. Consider that it's like you're looking at a mirror and you're seeing yourself. היינו, that is, שחיסרון זה קיים גם אצלו. That means this person has the same problem. Al kol panim, at the very least, b'dakut, maybe in a very, very subtle way, but he has the same problem. Lachein roeh zot b'mara, and that's why he's seeing it in a mirror. Kasher mistakel al chaveiro, when he's looking at his friend, he sees it, but it's like a mirror being held up to him. And if it wouldn't be that this person who's looking at his friend and seeing his friend's fault, if it wouldn't be for the fact that he himself has the same issues, even if it's on the most subtle of levels, but if he wouldn't have this problem, he wouldn't see this problem in his fellow. In psychology, they refer to this, it's not exactly the same thing, but they refer to this as projection. You're projecting your own faults onto somebody else. But that's, in other words, that's projection. That means that maybe the other person doesn't even have this fault. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about, you see somebody's, what Shantar says, you see somebody's being Mechal Shabbos.
It's an expression of the.
You see somebody, excuse me, you see somebody being Mechal, I'm just in the middle of a sentence. Right. You see somebody being Mechal Shabbos, right? So, and you're walking around with not only one shtreimel, you got 6 shtreimels on your head and 3 kapatis, and you're a holy Yid and so on, and you see somebody being Mechal Shabbos. So the Rosh Hashanah says that means that you also have the problem of Chilul Shabbos. In what way? The guy is mamish not Mechal Shabbos. Elamai, it's possible that on a very subtle level, for example, he says that if you don't have proper respect for a Talmud Chacham, the Talmud Chacham is considered under Madrega of Shabbos. So maybe you didn't respect the Talmud Chacham, and in that very subtle way you were Mechal Shabbos. But if you wouldn't have that problem at all, you wouldn't be seeing this person being Mechal Shabbos. Hashem would not have urged for you to see this. Whatever you see, if you even Hashgacha Pratit, in divine providence, whatever you see, it's min hashamayim that you should be there at that moment and that you should see that. But it's not arranged so that you should see here that, like, Hashem is not speaking Hashem is not Chas v'Sholem speaking Lashon Hara and saying, hey, Hashem, come and look at what this guy is doing. If Hashem is showing it to me, if Hashem arranged that I should see it, it means that Shalom, you see that? You've got the same problem, maybe not in the same vulgar way, okay? And you need to fix your own problem, and I want you to help this person fix their problem. But it's not that Hashem wants you to see something negative in somebody else. So what he's saying over here is that whenever Reb Zusha was saying, oh, Zusha did this, Zusha did that, Reb Zusha took this lesson very seriously. And it's interesting that the Rebbe is saying that this is already found in Sifrei Musar. That when you see a fault in another person, you should know, first and foremost, you should know that the only reason that you saw this is because you got the same problem, regardless of how subtle it may be by you. Okay? So if you see somebody insulting somebody in public, which is a terrible thing, if you see somebody robbing, which is a terrible thing, or something like that, and you see that, that means there's something that you're doing that's like that too. And you need to fix it yourself, and you need to help other people fix this too. So when Reb Zusha said, Zusha did this, Zusha did that, in other words, he would see the fault in another person, and he took it like Hashem was showing him a mirror of himself. What did you want to say?
A few things. One is I've been trying to do this myself in my debate. I've been trying to give examples from my own failings to help other people understand
Okay.
that it's a problem. Second of all, I think you've already said this. I want to accentuate it a little bit. I think that you see a fault in someone else because only if you have it within you. If you didn't have it within you, you wouldn't even notice it. You wouldn't notice it because you wouldn't be bothered by it within yourself. Because you have it within yourself, and
that's exactly what
it's bothering you about yourself, and you may not be admitting it to yourself, but it's there, and you know you have it at some level. Therefore, you notice it. Otherwise, you might not even notice it. And so it's not. I don't think it's the same as projection. Projection is different.
Right. So you're repeating what I said.
I'm repeating it. I'm giving a little bit more.
Okay. So let's go on.
Another aspect of it. So the last thing I want to ask is, if you see something negative in somebody else, and you notice it, what about if you see something positive in somebody else? Maybe that you would notice the positive in somebody else because you yourself have that positive trait.
Good. V'tam hadavar, and the reason for this is b'hekdeim. But first, we're going to preface this. Yadua ma shekatuv lo yigucha ra. You will not be pursued. I think yigucha means pursued. Or you will not dwell in evil. Mm-hmm. So at first light, this verse doesn't seem to make sense. Why? Because the pasuk itself is basically saying that there is such a thing as ra, that there is such a thing as evil. So imken, if that's the case, so how could it be then that you're not going to have any issues with evil? This is as we've learned, and elsewhere it says tahor einayim, somebody with pure eyes, mira'ot bara, does not see bad. In other words, when a yid is on the level of his eyes being pure, then you don't see the bad in another person. Because you have nothing to do with that. In other words, you're not doing that, so you're not going to see this by somebody else. And according to this, so when it's arranged in heaven that you should meet as another person, and you see something that's not good, so that is proof the fact that it's been arranged that you should see this, that is the proof that you've got this problem. But it's b'dakot al kol panim. At the very least, it might be on the most subtle of subtle levels, but you got the problem. And therefore, the advice is, so then publicly confess, publicly confess that you've got this problem, and the other person seeing that you're confessing over this, so you follow gam eisel hazulat to takin et rachav. He'll also have an influence on the other that he too should fix his ways. When this other person sees that you're confessing over this issue even though by you it's only on a very subtle level, you will be influencing him to do his own tshuva, right?
There's a danger when correcting someone, seeming to the other person as if you're condescending, as if you're better than them.
Of course.
And this is saying the opposite. It's saying, I'm also human. I'm also have frailties. I'm also do averot. And I've had this problem too. I'm not looking at you from down. I'm looking at you face to face. That I'm also not.
You're saying more than that. You're saying, look at you when you see the other person doing something, first and foremost, look at yourself. First and foremost, realize that it's your problem that you are being shown, and you do your tshuva first. And when you do your tshuva, the other person will also will be influenced to do tshuva.
You're making an important point. I'm making another point.
I heard your point.
Okay.
We're not having an argument. I didn't argue against your point. I'm saying
You're talking about the internal. I'm talking about how it affects the
I
other
understood
person.
you. I understood you.
Okay.
I didn't misunderstand you.
I didn't know you
Okay,
read it.
so please. Okay. I didn't misunderstand you. I didn't argue against what you said. I'm just.
I didn't know that you had heard at the point. That's
okay. B'nogea l'nyanenu, and concerning what we're talking about over here, kasher omrim lo etzah hanal, when this advice is being given, lidvadot berabim al inyanav, to publicly confess, so to'enu, so then the man says, argues and says, hayitachen shivazeh et atzmo berabim. What kind of advice are you giving me? That I should publicly, I see you doing a problem, so I understand that I've got this problem also. But why should I confess about it publicly? Why should I shame myself in public? It's the opposite of kvot Torah. Like, people are it's going to diminish the respect that people have for a Talmud Chacham. So he says the Rebbe, if you're not willing to confess your problems in public, okay, so then at the very least, don't speak about other people's problems in public. Yeah? Okay, good. You're not ready to do a public confession? Beseder. You're not on that level? Beseder. But don't talk about somebody else's cheskonot in public. And if you want to fulfill the mitzvah, you're going to say, wait a minute. It says in the Torah, I want to do this mitzvah, right? So it says the Rebbe, Tekaima al pi ma shekatuv b'Shulchan Aruch. Do it the way it says in Shulchan Aruch. Shelachol l'rosh tzrichim l'ochicho b'yachid. First and foremost, if you're going to give somebody techachi, it's between four eyes, right? Just you and the other person. But often, and in such a manner that with the divrei chachamim benachat nishmaim, and it has to be in a way that the words of the chachamim are heard when they're given over peacefully and tranquilly. Okay, so much for the Indian of Harcheach Tercheach Esamisach, right? So, in other words, to speak, so even, right, so we started this whole thing with Yeshayahu, right? And even though Yeshayahu was saying the truth, and even though it was just between him and Hashem, right? To speak Lashon Hara against somebody is a terrible thing, and the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't want any of that. Okay? He didn't go into yet why. That's. But basically, it's like, like, I don't know if your parents ever got a call from the principal, but my parents would get calls from the principal and from the teachers about, about what Shalom did and so on. for a parent to get such a call, like, you're talking about this person's child, right? And you're telling this person, like, your child is not a good child or something like that. It's like, how do you do that? You can't do that. You can say, listen, we want to help your child improve something and do something like that, but to tell like, your kid did this. And there are teachers that think that this is a big mitzvah, like, that they should talk that way. Never. Because people learn things superficially and they don't get the depth of it, you understand? And okay. And unfortunately, like, but when you see that happening by somebody else, then you got to know, I got the problem too. Okay. Havei done it kol adam lekaf zchut. Now the Mishnah says, judge everybody lekaf zchut, right? So this is the kaf hayad. This is called kaf, right? It's a spoon. A spoon is called kaf in Hebrew, right? It's also like a dish. And on a scale, you have the two dishes, right? The positive and the negative. So the Mishnah says, "Havei done it kol adam lekaf zchut," judge everybody into the positive dish. So the Pashut Pshat is, you see a kid is sitting on the bus, and there's an elderly person standing by his seat, and the kid isn't even thinking of giving up his seat, right? So, like, the thought that goes through one's mind is, look at the kids today, they don't even know what it means to respect the elders, etc. Unfortunately, that might be the case, but to be done the kaf zchut means, don't think right away that the kid is a bad kid. Maybe the kid has a terrible stomach ache. Maybe the kid gets very dizzy on the bus. Maybe find some reason, find some excuse to justify the person's the behavior. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't go over to the kid and say, excuse me, maybe you give up your seat for this person, which I do sometimes. I'll go over to somebody and I'll say, would you mind giving your seat to this person, Because some people need to be educated in that way, right? But still, the Mishnah says, "Havei done this kol adam lekaf zchut." And there's a famous story in the Gemara. I don't remember if it was Rabbi Akiva. Somebody was working for somebody for 6 months, and then when it came time to get his wages before Yom Tov, right? Do you remember the story? And you remember who it was? And he goes to the guy and he needs to go home for Pesach. You have my salary? He says, I'm sorry, I don't have it. So he leaves. So he says to him, so can you give me some produce? He says, no, I can't give you produce. Can you do this? No, I can't do this. Remember the story? And he's
like linen or something else.
Whatever it was, a bunch of things, right? So he says, I can't. Anyway, so he was teaching the men's kids for 6 months or whatever he was doing there. Anyway, he leaves, an hour or so later, he comes running after him and he's got all this stuff for him. So he says, tell me, what did you think when I told you that I can't pay you, right? And he says, I figured that you all of a sudden got into a whole bunch of debt. And what did you think when I said I can't give you any produce? I figured you must have used it as a mashkin, as a guarantee for whatever it is, and so on. Anyway, so the end of it says it was all exactly like you were thinking, But it's what about Drega? You work for 6 months and it comes time to get your salary, and the guy says, I can't give you your salary. Like, it certainly can put you on fire. But that's that's like the Gemara is giving an extreme example on the Havei done this kol adam lekaf zchut. So, and the famous Reb Nachman, we'll talk about that later. So it says the Rebbe, so there's another very, very important point over here. גם כאשר מדבר באופן לדברי חכמים ונחת נשמעים. Even when you're speaking to the other person in a manner of in a pleasant way, הנה תמורת הדיבור אודות עניינים בלתי רצויים, הפך השכר, יכולים לדבר אודות צד הטוב, עניין השכר. In other words, תמורה means instead of. So instead of talking about things that are not desirable, or to talk about the opposite of reward, in other words, instead of talking about what temperature they're going to turn it up to in Gehenna, you know, you can talk about the good stuff. You can talk about, like, you know, wow, you did such a nice thing, you know, for that you're going to have such a great reward in Shemayim. So l'shem ma tzarich ata litnaheg ba'ofen delo chafetz b'bracha. So why do you need to behave yourself in a way of not wanting the blessing? B'kayadu ma shekatuv b'hemshech hakatuv, as is known what's written in the continuation of the verse. Kasher ata yachol litnaheg ba'ofen de chafetz b'bracha. Why do you have to emphasize the negative when you can emphasize the positive? Talk about the reward of doing a mitzvah. Talk about the reward of the mitzvah of tshuva, and similar. There's a whole pasuk about the greatness of the reward that one gets for doing a mitzvah. Hein b'chamisha chumshei Torah. You have this verse in the Chumash. It says, "Im b'chukotai telechu," if you will go in my laws, "But mitzvotai tishmoru," when you will keep my mitzvot, "V'natati gishmechem b'itam," then I'm going to give you your rains in their proper time. V'yitera mizo, and even more than that, b'neviim, it's also mentioned in the prophets. V'yitera mizo b'torah shebal peh, more so in the oral Torah. There's so much talk about the positive that is available to everyone for doing a mitzvah. Umuvan, it's understood. Sheyesh chomer rab b'inyanim elu. The positive aspect is so much greater. And there's so much material about it. There's enough material available to make all the speeches you want to make in the month of Elul. There's enough to talk about the positive rewards for doing the good. You don't have to talk about what temperature is going to be like in hell, right? Michal, I have a joke for you. I'll tell you in a minute. Aseret Yemei Tshuva v'chol chodesh Tishrei. You must speak afilu al kol hashana kula. There's enough material to talk about the positive even for all year long. Lo yachsar lo al ma ledaber b'drashotav. There's no shortage of material for the rabbis for their sermons to talk about the positive. Okay.
What pasuk is he referring to? Lo chafetz b'bracha.
I have to look it up. You can Google it to find it. Okay, so this is like, this is what the Rebbe is talking about. There's so much good stuff to talk about. Why do you have to talk about the negative, right? I told you the story that a number of years ago, we were at a wedding of this young couple that he was studying in Batayan and she was studying in another school. And they were both from America. And I have no idea where they are today, but nice guy, nice couple. And her parents came for the wedding. And at the chuppah, you know the story, Michal. At the chuppah, literally, when they gave her some wine to drink, a little drop of wine spilled on her dress. And I was standing there. I saw literally her father, from that moment on, the rest of the night, whenever he looked at his daughter, all he looked at was the stain. All he saw was the stain. At one point, she runs over to him, "Daddy, I'm so happy. This is so beautiful." And she just wants to hug him. And I just happened to be standing there, and he looks at the stain. I felt sorry for him, right? But the fact that I saw that, you're just laughing, right? The fact that I saw that means that I got the same problem too, right? And Bechlal, one should realize if you're seeing negative in other people, that itself is a problem. Why are you seeing so much negative? Train yourself, train myself to see positive. It's a matter of training. Okay, so so we're gonna stop over here. Let's hopefully tomorrow is what, Wednesday, so there's no shiur. So on Thursday, hopefully on Thursday we'll start on time. Okay? And so what's this got to do with the parsha? What's it got to do with our parsha?
With the
So just take it.
See, the report that they brought back was what Moshe wanted them.
Okay, so we'll discuss it on Thursday. But obviously, we're talking about how you talk about Eretz Yisrael, how you talk about what you see over here, and so on, right? You heard about this guy made Aliyah, and he writes a letter to his friends in Switzerland, and he's learning Hebrew, so he says Tov ba'aretz. So his friend gets the letter, and in for somebody who doesn't understand Hebrew so well, so ba'aretz translated in Yiddish in dread. So he reads Ani ba'aretz, ich bin in dread. Tov ba'aretz, guten dread. Right? But there's a story with the Lelever. The Lelever says the Shid went to Eretz Yisrael, and he came back. People were asking him, how is it, and so on, and he was full of criticism. So, and from this week's parsha. So the Rebbe said to him, he says, Tovah haaretz me'od me'od. This week's parsha. This land is very, very good. He says there's one other place where we have me'od me'od together. Anybody know where?
It's in Bereshit, isn't it?
In Pirkei Avos, it says me'od me'od hevei shval ruach. Be very, very humble. So he says, to be able to see the very, very good of Eretz Yisrael, you have to be very, very humble. Okay, I see Miriam Sukov and Akiva Goldberg and whoever else is out there on Facebook. Thumbs up, I see. Okay, thanks for joining us, Kotev.
What did you call when Reb Zusha and his brother Reb Elimelech would go out?